The board will reconvene. The board met in closed session and we have no reportables today. If you could please stand. Daniel, could you read it?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome everyone. I apologize for a few minutes late. Our first item is public comment. Per board policy 2350, any person may address the board at this time either on an agenda item or other matters of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker, with a maximum time of 15 minutes per item unless otherwise extended by the board. Do we have any public comments concerning items on the agenda tonight?
I apologize. Once again, I have to step out of my normal order because of classroom situation coming up. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to wish everybody good evening.
So is this your report?
Well, yes, because, I mean, this is a good place to do it, and I want to just make sure that we get it out here. One of the things the association is requesting tonight is the removal of item 12, the big stack courses for credit on the consent calendar. And the reason for that is that there are some open questions that have not been resolved to the satisfaction of the association regarding the 4 credit pass. And so we do have questions, and Lisa and possibly Kevin will be here later to address those if you do remove the item from the consent calendar. That's it.
That's your report?
That's my report.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other public comments concerning items on the agenda?
Not on the agenda.
One more. We're on the agenda.
This is about item 18 on the agenda.
I did on the first.
I'm sorry, just one moment.
No problem.
You had someone interested, another person interested in making a comment on something not on the agenda.
Okay, so this is still on.
Do you need one? Okay, just a second. Okay, this is about item 18 on the agenda.
Your name, please?
Matthew? Leslie. S-C-R. Pronounced Doiser. I've been researching this for a little while, and I've talked a little bit about this in the past. There's a little bit of confusion about, I know that under the measure, under our program review, we're asking in promoting healthier food. It's a little unclear where we're going in that direction. We've seen the figures that the paper brought out in November about the Carl's Jr. contract. I know we're talking about considering to continue that at the moment, but I've gone through the trouble of going back through some of the past surveys, the ones that I can get my hands on. The 2006 one that the campus did that was focused on food court, pretty much about the food service and everything else. I could never find the original survey to get a good handle on how the questions were asked. But I did go back and get the ASP survey from 2009, and they found that in a sample size of 396 that for Carl's Jr., there were 100 people at 396. That was a 26.4 approval rating for Carl's Jr. at that point. And this was done in December 16th of 2008. This was collected. Fruit and healthier snacks came in recommended at 75.5%. Neutral was about 21.7%. Soups and salads were at 72.4%. Neutral was about 26.7%. Vegetarian options were at 37.9%. Neutral was about 49%. Student government that just did their survey last term, or sorry, semester, found that the folks that not at about a 600 sample size, roughly, I couldn't get that number confirmed, Those who did not frequent Carl's Jr. were 328%, which equates to 54.99%. Those who did frequent was 263 folks, and that was 44.5%. My own survey at the moment, I've done about 100 surveys. I have a little problem in the way I framed my question, but out of 100 people surveys I've gone through at this point, and I have about 700, 59 people, or 59%, did not go to Carl's Jr., just to let you know. I know we're waiting for accreditation to come shortly. There is some concern about what our food choices are on campus. If you look at the literature that Carl's puts out for everybody to look at and compare it to RDA standards, which is dietary standards that the USDA puts out, the numbers are not very convincing as far as food. For instance, just for sodium on a turkey burger, which is about 490 calories, that's 960 parts of sodium, which is milligrams. There's 2,400 recommended for daily allowance. That's one of the best choices for sodium. One of the worst choices for sodium is roughly, for instance, fish and chips, that's 1,410 for salt. And there's other factors in consideration in that. So I think we need to think long and hard about what choices we're going to have. And in conjunction, if we're going to have a vendor that comes on campus, whether it is Carl's or it's somebody else, and they state their facts and the phytonutrients and everything else, that if we're going to do a side-by-side alternate for the food system here as far as the consumer base, we should also be able to identify all of our nutrients and everything else so people can compare and shop as to their food habits. Any questions?
So you're wanting us to pull item 18 off and discuss it?
Correct. I think that'd be a prudent thing to do. That's my recommendation. Thank you much. Huh?
Please state your name.
Hi, I will also be talking about item 18, and my name is Kayla Pace. So I have just a general question for the board or for anybody, and this isn't really rhetorical, this is actually open answer. What is the one thing that is the base or core of any culture? Does anybody know? Is it clothes? Music? It's food. Any culture, past or present, the core of that culture is food. College of the Sequoias is a culture, after all. We are a culture of intelligence, we are a culture of caring, and we are a culture that reaches beyond oneself. And most importantly, we are a culture of the future. The future of this community, of Visalia, Tulare, Camper, Exeter, Woodlake, and all areas within those 5 districts. That is why what I am going to address is of the utmost importance to this board and to everyone here tonight. The 3 things I will be talking about is the cost, the health of the student, and the potential leadership we have here at COS for all community colleges across the state. The first thing I will address is the cost. Currently, from what I understand, we are at a $1.5 million deficit. Again, from what I have understood, we are losing $20,000 a year because of this Carl's Jr. contract. That $20,000 could be the difference between losing and reinstating programs. And let's look to the students for a second. That is so expensive for the students, Carl's Jr., I mean. And just the quality of Carl's Jr. is lacking. I know many students who love Carl's Jr., but would much rather go to the Carl's Jr. down Mooney than the Carl's Jr. here. And that is very unfortunate because we, after all, are losing money. Now let's say money wasn't an issue. Students need to be healthy enough to attend classes. The CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, state that a survey back in 2008 that 35.7% of the adult population, 35.7 million adults were obese, and over half of the adult population was overweight. Now, that's just poor health as it is. Well, let's talk about health, self-esteem. You have young students who are coming here who want to be looked upon as well. You have people not only coming to college to study, but wanting to date. Now, when you have a lack of self-esteem, I'm sorry, but when I lack self-esteem, I don't want to attend class. What student does? You want to feel good about yourself when you go to class, and feeling good about yourself contributes to good grades. Now, let's go back to the CDC. Do we want to be an institution that goes with the flow, that continues to push out products that are obese or overweight? Or do we want to fight against the current to be a healthier college? Beyond the health of the student, let's look at the institution. We are one of 112 community colleges. When speaking with many other colleges, a lot of them are in the same situation as we are. Maybe not the UCs, maybe not the state schools, but community colleges. We are in a similar situation. A young man by the name of Andrew Bott, who's the Vice President of Business and Affairs for the Associated Student Organization down in Pasadena College, has fought against this. He, in fact, has implemented a thing called, a program called HUMAN. HUMAN is Healthier Vendors. Now, if we wanted that at our campus, now if we want that at our campus, we can bring that to our campus, because after all, they are an organization. With that being said, COS needs to look to the future as being a leader for the other 112 college campuses. Today I have mentioned cost, health, and COS as a leader to the 112 colleges. I realize that the majority is normally speaking for the minority as well, but unfortunately in this case, many of the majority of the students at this college are apathetic, and this is the one case where the minority should be listened to, because after all, we are the passionate ones. We are the only ones who are willing to care and come to the board meeting today. Now I would like to address the board. Ms. Carzosa, Mr. Zimbold, Mr. Mann, Mr. Nunes. I understand all of you are COS graduates. And even you, Mr. Sherman, your son is also a COS graduate. I was reading up on you guys today. You were wondering where I got that info from. So my question to you guys is, wouldn't you guys want healthier food? Or would you guys be willing to go and eat Carl's Jr. on this campus? Or would you rather go to a healthier place? You guys can afford it. You guys are the success of COS. And that's what we're all here. We are all here wishing and wanting to be successful. But it is hard when you have a place like Carl's Jr. on your campus where it is not a healthy place to eat. It is losing money for the college, and we are just going with the flow and continuing to be like the 112 other colleges. I believe that this is the best college in the state, and I think we need to become more of a leader, especially when it comes to food. Is there any questions? Thank you.
Do we have any other comments concerning items on the agenda? Seeing none, we will go off the agenda. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My name is Jim Cusero. I am the president of Central Section California Music Educators, band director at Porterville High School, and Visalia resident. I would like to talk about the instrumental music program, the band at COS. A little bit about the history. Dwayne Newcomer was the first band director here from 1957 to 1977. His load included marching band, concert band, jazz band, pep band, music theory 1, and music appreciation. Along Dwayne was another Dwayne Weston, and also Harry Buchlian, who kind of teamed up and did the program, and Harry brought in some more jazz, night jazz, music theory 1 and 2, and also beginning instruments, while Dwayne did a marching band, concert band, pep band, musical theater, music appreciation as well. That brings us to 1990 when Jeff Bilden came in, and Jeff's load was concert band, marching band, jazz band, community band, Dixieland band, pep band, musical theater, beginning instruments, guitar. 1 year later, music appreciation was added. So you can see as time has gone on, the load has increased, but the thing that hasn't changed at COS has been the quality of the program. The COS music program has always been a model for the community college district, and I'm just here to voice my support for continuing with that tradition. As time has gone on, when the load has increased, the quality has stayed the same, and it's because of the people. As a portable unified teacher, many of my music students have opted to come to COS rather than attend college in Porterville for one reason, and that's the band. The band is a full-time job. Running a band is much more than conducting. To run a band, the teaching part of it is about 50% of the load. There is much more to do with the band regarding everything in the office and running the music and everything else, and it takes a full-time person with office hours. When the band was cut at Porterville College, the instruments that were there somehow just disappeared, and without somebody there in the building at all times, I would hate to see that happen at the College of Sequoias. I personally have performed in the COS Thursday night band, and I was principal trumpet of the Tulare County Symphony for nearly 20 years and gotten COS credit for those classes. All of these classes do a tremendous job in community outreach and making the community of Visalia and surrounding communities stronger at large. But the anchor to all of this is a band director on site full-time. There are currently many former COS students working as band directors in our vicinity. I'm just going to read the names, not the schools, to save time, but these are people that have attended COS since 1990 that are currently teaching. Mario Capote, Alan McFarland, Sean McElhaney, David Morris, Jordan Ray, Mike Schofield, Jason Black, Ryan Dillon, John Dominguez, Jennifer Fahrenkoff, Kathy Hernandez, Richard McHugh, Shannon McMahon, Philip Villalobos, Michaela Throne, Bill Wilkinson, and that have graduated and attended COS prior to 1990. Phil Barker, Dennis Betancourt, Rob Bentley, Jeff Bilden, Lisa Butts, Bill Butts, Craig Corey, Dave Aber, Nick Galvan, who's in our presence currently, president of Tulare Kings Music Educators, Brent Iden, Craig Mashler, Ed McHugh, Dave Wolf, Mary Chun, Vicki Rocha, and Mike Rader, who is now retired. The influence on the community at large in our area from the COS music program is monumental. When I went to PC, I was allowed to take a music theory, Porterville College, 3 and 4 with one other student, Alex Gonzalez. These programs are now gone, but now both Alex and I are high school band directors. A vibrant music program at the community college level is an essential element to a community college. The progress made in private instruction, concert band, jazz band, and the like have made COS a model for the state. Keep that banner flying and the music playing. Thank you. And with me in support also is Doug Hunt from Tulare, music educator, and again, Nick Galvan. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Hello. My name is Nick Galvan. I'm the president of the Tulare Kings Music Educators Association. We're made up of 100 music educators. Orchestra, jazz band, advanced band, choral. So just about all the music educators that are in Tulare and Kings County belong to our organization. We put on the honor orchestras, the honor bands, the honor jazz bands. And so as Mr. Kusero had just got done stating, there are many of us educators, including myself, that came to College of the Sequoias. I was quite fortunate to have Dwayne Weston all 3 years as a band director and as a major influence of how I teach. And with that, we are here just to make sure that the board understands on how important COS's music program still is to current directors and to our students coming up. Currently, I have a student that graduated from Woodlake High School a few years ago, attended Fresno State, and now is attending COS. And he is a music ed major. Saw him on Thursday at Cherry Avenue for their jazz festival. And he was telling me how excited he was to be here at COS in their program. And so, like I said, it's important that we keep this strong tradition that COS has of very strong programs that go on, not just with music education, but with students that want to just expand their music appreciation, their music general ed, anything to help them become successful in life. And so we're counting on you to, when it's time to hire somebody full-time, that you look at the qualifications and realize that there's going to be many music educators and students watching to see who you hire, because they will be coming here. We will encourage them to continue coming here. And like I said, our students, we have some awesome students, and now we have some awesome educators that came through COS, and we're going to continue that as time goes on. So thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Nick, and I'm going to stress the importance of the last couple of sentences you said about how you encourage students to come to COS. As a local person who was here yourself, it makes a big difference. I appreciate you coming out and spending time to tell us your concerns. Thanks. Do we have any more comments? Items not on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on. We'll move on to our reports, and our first report is our student trustee report. Ms. Daniels.
So far for February, ASB has been pretty silent. Everything that we've done so far is the club social on February 5th, last Tuesday. I wasn't there personally because I had class, but I heard there was about 10 clubs that showed up, 20 to 30 people. It was a good turnout, they had a lot of fun with lots of food. And this upcoming Thursday, we're going to have a club rush on the quad. I know the ASB is going to have 2 tables, and they're going to sell food on their ASB table. We're going to sell Valentine's baskets on the Valentine's table. So they're going to have they're going to I think they're going to sell like a lollipop for $1, have a raffle for the basket. So they're doing for that. But besides that, nothing else is really going on. We're just trying to put down a president's forum together, and then we have March for March 4th. That's it.
Again, do we have any board member reports?
I might say that our retreat in Hanford was outstanding, and I think that our concerns by not doing it in Three Rivers were not justified. So I think that what we did was good. Doing it in Tulare next year will be also outstanding. Saves the district money.
Yes, I'd like to also comment on how I believe it was. We got a lot of work done. It was jam-packed, that's for sure. Lots of information. I'd like to thank Stan and his staff, and Michelle. Thank you for being there and staying the day with us. We appreciate that. Also, I believe we got quite a bit of work done in the time we had. Any other board member reports? Foundation report. Mr. Rick. How's your neck?
Not good.
Not headless. So I guess that was a successful surgery that don't cut your head.
And you're up and around.
Yeah.
That's probably a good sign.
Yeah. First, I want to say we had a very successful, my first annual meeting of the foundation. I want to thank Mr. Sherman and Mr. Cardoza for attending. Mr. Cardoza.
What a group you have there too. I mean, it's incredible. That room must
The two of you are going to be confused. No, we had a large turnout, and I think we had some good discussion. First, I'd like to report we received a $30,000 anonymous gift for scholarships in the allied health programs. We also received a $10,000 endowment for a scholarship by Schul and Associates at local. A couple of things to announce. Keep in your on your calendars. The annual Giant Athletic Golf Tournament is April 29th at the Visalia Country Club. More current is the football crab feed. It is February 15th. It is in Porter Fieldhouse. We have tickets in our office. If you have not received them, I think it will be a very successful event. We completed both the basketball and the baseball fundraisers that were last week, and so we thank the county for that. We'll have a report next month of what the proceeds from those two events were. Hall of Fame is February 23rd at 6 p.m. The honorees are Dr. Zoe Ann Eckert Dreyer, MD. She's a pediatric hematology oncology specialist in Houston, Texas. Dr. Margaret Prager Borrego, PhD, and is a mental health practitioner, and Harold Leland Edwards, historian and author of the Beast Feast, which I don't know if you remember from last year. It's a fundraiser for the women's equestrian team. It's going to be out at the Polaris Center. It's May 17th. The feast is on exotic animals like alligator and elk and snake, and there is chicken for those of you who are not so adventurous. But I think it would be a really fun. You come and watch. Also, just an appeal to anyone in the room, we are in desperate need of people. We have all the scholarship applications coming in. We're in desperate need of readers. So and we can send the applications to you electronically. But it's a big job and it's a very important job. We have over 400 scholarships, and it's nice to have more than one person read the application so you get a balance of people's ideas. So I know a lot of you don't have free time. I appreciate it. And you particularly are going to have something to read. Thank you. Any questions?
You might mention who your new officers are for the foundation.
Oh, yeah, we elected new officers. Sherry Bell is the president. Vice president is Skip Barwick. Let's see, treasurer is Rich Artist, and secretary
Lisa Frank.
Lisa Frank. She's vice president. I'm sorry. We actually do not have a secretary. So we have the officers are spread out over the district. Lisa's from Hanford, 2 people from Tulare, and 1 from myself.
Thanks, Steve. Accreditation report.
Good evening, everyone. I want to reiterate what Mr. Renton said as far as the scholarships. I've been fortunate to read scholarships the past couple of years and volunteering again this year. And it's the best use of my time because you get to see some of, one-on-one, some of the incredible work our students are doing. So it's a really rewarding volunteer work. As far as accreditation, the news is that the letters were mailed today. They mailed them via U.S. mail. No one is awaiting more anxiously than I, bothering Janet every 30 minutes to see if she's checked the mail. And we should, I guess it depends how long U.S. Postal Service takes, we should know what our results are in the next couple of days. So we'll be getting back to you. I was lucky enough to attend an accreditation workshop this Friday and Saturday with Cindy Delane and Jenna, I'll have you pass those down, and Christian Anderson and Joni Jordan. And we saw some incredible presentations. Christian Anderson sent out a summary to the faculty today, and we can forward that summary to you. But it was a really great time for us. We got to hear from Barbara Bino, who is the president of the ACCJC, along with several other members of the ACCJC and colleges around the state who had some really great information. What we heard over and over again, what was the key is having good research, good data, good information, the support from your research office to provide the information you need for decision making. One of the things I wanted to share with you was the sanctions for the past several years. I just handed out one of the slides from a presentation that we saw. And as you can see, the reasons college have been placed on sanction for January 2011, which is the bottom, is 4 for program review, 15 for planning, and using assessment results, 14 for board roles and responsibilities, 5 for internal governance issues, and 13 for financial management or stability. What I wanted to point out is that, as you can see, the areas that we are very strong in are financial, the board, and program review. We did not receive any recommendations on any of those areas, yet you can see it's an ongoing problem for many other colleges, especially not having the financial stability and issues with their board. And Michelle Hester-Reyes mentioned that at in her last report, especially about the issues with the boards at other colleges. So I was really glad to see this was reiterated in this conference that we went to. And program review, that was one of the things I wanted to say. We heard over and over again about people with issues with program review, and we were able to, at every presentation, say we have one of the strongest program reviews from any college we've heard of across the state. And I think our faculty sometimes say it might be a little too strong, so we're working on that as well, but we have a very strong program review process. Where we fall, along with some of the other programs, is with the 15 who were received sanctions for planning and then internal governance. And so we expect that we'll see some type of, we don't know what yet in those areas, but I just wanted to point out to you where we fall in with the other colleges. So that's where we are right now, and we should, like I said, hear something any minute now.
Midnight tomorrow,
I
probably,
hope.
right?
I'm gonna go check the bill right now.
Lori, I have a question.
Sure.
Where do we fall down on planning and internal governance?
So in the planning, those were in our recommendations that I handed out to you at the board retreat and at our last board meeting. Those are two of the areas of recommendations. As you recall, we received 3 areas of commendation for facilities, for our student support programs, and for our president's communication with the students. And we received 7 areas of recommendations. And those were around planning, student learning outcomes, campus dialogue, institutional effectiveness, our support services for equal support services for distance ed, Tulare, and Hanford. And then we received more minor recommendations on our human resources, and of course I'm going to forget the last one. If there's one other one that we received minor recommendations on, but our major recommendations that we expect to see some kind of work to be done on is in planning and internal governance, which is our campus dialogue and our institutional effectiveness. And that really has to do with how we're all working together, how we're communicating together, and how we're using data to inform our decision making. So we do expect to see something in those 2 areas. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, now we'll sit by our email and wait with you.
I think I'm gonna call you all. I'm gonna be standing in their numbers and call them all. So, okay.
Thank you.
Daniel has a question.
What do you mean by campus dialogue?
What was it about campus dialogue? It was how our different committees communicate with each other. So we have a lot of really strong committees that do planning and decision making, but the group that came out didn't see a strong enough connection to how all of those various committees and decision making groups communicate with each other. So we need to strengthen those processes.
Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Superintendent.
Okay, so in the spirit of accreditation, I wanted to defer my time today to invite representatives from our RN and PTA program to give us a little presentation on the recent results of the internal accreditation that was done in our registered nursing program, and an update on the program, both registered nursing and physical therapy assistant. So I'm inviting to the podium Cindy Delaney to share that information.
Good evening. Hi. Well, I want to say the tradition of excellence continues in the nursing and allied health programs through the leadership of Karen Roberts, our nursing director, her faculty and staff. The Board of Registered Nursing has reaccredited the nursing program, which has been in existence, hard to believe, for 43 years here at COS, with no areas of non-compliance, a very stellar accreditation review. And we are also very fortunate to start a new tradition of excellence, and that's our physical therapy assistant program. Under the leadership of Jonna Shingle as the director, her faculty and staff, they too completed a very successful new program accreditation late last spring by the Commission of Accreditation in Physical Therapy Education. And boy, is it really something to get a new program started through the PTA accreditation process. Both programs, as you know, are well respected in the community, the region, the state, and within their own professional organization. So it's my honor to bring up Karen Roberts and Jonna Shingle to present to you all the good that these two programs do.
Thank you, Cindy. Our program continues on in its excellence because I have a mentor like Cindy before me that went before me, and we continue on the traditions that were started with the leaders before me. And I thank you all for letting us be here tonight to give you this presentation. A little bit of history for us, and you do have this in your packet. As Cindy said, it's closer to 43 years of service to the community. To date, we have graduated 2,659 students from our program, and 98% of those students do practice here in the Central Valley. We do know that. 85% of our graduates, and we're very happy with this number in light of some of the economic trends that have happened over the last couple of years, we do practice in the CMS district. We have great community support in our partnerships with our local healthcare facilities, our bond measure, scholarships, as Mr. Renton said, and through the bond measure in the fall of 2009, over winter break, we were able to move into our new Nursing and Allied Health building, Hospital Rock, and we're very proud of that. Our community healthcare partners are Adventist Health Central Valley Network. We use both hospitals in Hanford, and we picked up Selma last semester, and we are hoping they have purchased Dubuque Hospital. We may use that as a clinical site someday. Cahuilla Delta District Healthcare System, Sierra View District Hospital, and Tulare Regional Medical Center are our main hospitals and healthcare facilities that we use. You have this slide in the changes in the healthcare sector that impacted the economy, that also impacted our program. And on the next slide, I want to talk about what we did as a program in anticipation of these changes in the healthcare sector and the economy, and what we did to adjust ourselves to keep up with those changes. We suspended optional nursing courses and our part-time program. That ended, the last class graduated December of 2010. To keep up with some of the changes. We operated with 4 vacancies in full-time tenure-track faculty. We lost 3 to the Golden Handshake in May of 2010, and 1 a year later in May of 2011. We have another one that's going to retire this May, and we have 1 now on medical leave, and in all likelihood she will not be back with us. We utilized large lecture to compensate for these faculty attritions. We assessed our program size compared to the employment opportunities, the resources that were available to us, and the economy. And with that, we began reducing new cohorts each semester. At the height of the growth of our program under one of our grants, we had close to 100 students in the program, including the part-time. When the part-time program ended, we were at 80 students a semester. Given the changes we saw on the horizon with the economy and with the way things were going in nursing, we began decreasing our enrollment to 60 in fall of 2011. And that continued for the last 3 semesters. And this spring, we now have admitted a cohort of 40 students to keep up with what's going on out there. This next slide kind of gives you just a good picture of where our students' success is and our program success. The orange bars are, the blue bars are students who are successful in their first attempt at taking the RN exam. 2010, 2011, in that springtime, the BRN and all nursing schools across the nation changed the test. It became harder, and we anticipated that our passing rates would go down, and they did in 2011, 2012. They dropped a little bit, but as you can see in 2012, 2013, we're back up and we're on the rise again. But with all of that, even with the test scores, our students have stayed successful in our program. And you can see we have a very low attrition rate. It's about 1 to 2%. We have a very strong internal student success program. We try not to let any of our students fail out unless there's just circumstances that don't allow them to stay in the program. So we have a really good, strong program to offer our students and help them to stay in the program. And we don't want to lose them. We need them to take care of all of us as we get older. This one right here is in light of accreditation. We did have our full 3-day continuing approval visit. It was November 13th, 14th, and 15th, 2012. We're on now a 5-year accreditation cycle, so the BRN will be back in fall of 2017. And as Cindy said, we were found in full compliance with all the California Code of Regulations. So we're very proud of our accreditation visit. And our nurse education consultant, Kelly, left us with some really good positive comments, and that's on this slide right here. She went to visit all 3 hospitals. She talked with staff members, students, faculty, our administration, Stan, Jennifer, Cindy. She talked with David Maciel, the DRCs, Stephanie Open in the Health Center. And from her visits with all of these people, this is her picture and her view of what our program is. And we got really good compliments from her on our program. Our students appreciate being held to high academic standards. We have a very rigorous program. Program's ongoing self-evaluation process provides data for program management. We do a one-year evaluation of our program. There's 11 criteria we have to evaluate for the BRN, and we make our changes according to that. The program has long-standing relationships with its community partners, and it's held in high regard in the community, and she heard that as she visited the different facilities. We have a very cohesive faculty at this time who are committed to student success and our modern facility, Hospital Rock, and she was quite pleased to see that the program has continued support from our district administration. So she was very pleased with our program, and that is the RN program update in a nutshell.
Any questions? Any questions? Thank you very much.
Well, I'm definitely the new kid on the block, and I wouldn't even try to start this without Karen in front of me. Go ahead, Nick. Okay. Just trying to see if she's helping me out again. So I'm Jonna Shingle. I'm the newest program at COS, the first degree program in about 25 years. So we're very excited to be here. And again, thank you for your support in tough economic times to start a brand new degree program. I know is difficult, and so I appreciate Cindy's support. I wouldn't have done this without Dennis Goebel and Karen, because they both have extremely successful programs, and I fit right somewhere between nursing and sports medicine. So the resources and the history were here for me. We actually wrote a workforce development grant in 2008. It was the highest ranked grant in the state of California because the need for allied health professionals in this area is so dramatic. I was hired in 2009. We're the only PTA program between Los Angeles, Regis College, and Sacramento City College. We have no competition with private education in this area. So we're one of the 5 programs in the California Community College system. We admitted our first cohort in 2010. We had approximately 100 applicants. We admit 26 new students each fall semester. And we've done this for 3 admission cycles now, and our numbers have pretty much stayed the same. We have anywhere from 80 to about 120 applicants per year for the 26 spots. Because we're a new program, we've been up and down the state going to different conferences. This is a picture of us at our state conference. We were the only PTA program, and all of the employer recruiters were at our booth because PTAs are less expensive than PTs, and the job market for them is fantastic. We have 40 clinical sites. That's why you guys vote on so many of our contracts. I want to thank you for doing that each and every month. Our students spend over 680 hours in a clinical setting, and it's this strong link to the community partners where they get many of their job offers. We place our students in PT clinics all the way from Bakersfield to the Bay Area. We don't move them out of the district unless that's where they come from. Because we are a workforce development grant that was granted through the California grant, we do take students outside the district but within the state of California. This is our data when we've had one graduating class get a 96% graduation rate. Of those, 96 passed the state board, and of those 25, all are 100% employed. All 25 new taxpayers. That's what I'm most proud of. We also received a full 5-year accreditation. That's the longest accreditation cycle a new program can get. We just sent in our annual report and just letting you know that we continue to do what we said we were going to do. And I will tell you, there's nothing like accreditation that'll kick you into getting all your nuts and bolts in place. And again, I couldn't have done it without the support of Karen and Cindy and also the board and president. Thanks. Oh.
How long is the program? And maybe I missed it.
It's a 2-year program, pretty much like nursing, a 4-semester program in with about a semester of prerequisites before they can apply.
And what kind of money can they make once they graduate?
Our students are making anywhere from about $25 to about $35 an hour with a 2-year degree.
And only a semester prereq, so that's a little bit lighter than yours.
It is a little bit lighter. Right now, we only require anatomy and physiology as prerequisites. They do have to complete their AS degree, though. So if they can get more of that done while they're waiting to get in, we do certainly encourage that. But they do have to complete a full AS degree in order to be able to sit for the state board.
So once they're in the program, are they able to take some of those classes?
Yes, we have a little wiggle. That was required by our accrediting body, that we have to prove that they have wiggle room in there to finish their AS degree requirements.
Great.
All together, how many units do you have?
In the PTA program,
Including trying to get their AS degree?
73 from start to finish.
help, what exactly are they qualified to do?
PT assistants are pretty much like a physician's assistant is to a physician, a PT assistant is to a PT. Physical therapists have to do the evaluation, you have to see them the first time, but once they set a plan of care, a PTA can implement that plan of care. And in the state of California, it's a very wide scope of practice. Their licensure allows them to see the patient for 30 days before a PT has to do a reevaluation. Obviously, if the patient's status changes or a plan of care change needs to be implemented, then the PTA has to contact the PT in order to set that up earlier. They have to have telecommunication contact with the PT of record at all times. But the clinics in our area, I probably get as many calls from employers as I do students on a daily basis.
Earl, my 10-year-old son is going to a PT for his shoulder for baseball. That's what they do.
I love your employment record.
About 100%.
Thank you, we appreciate that. Board members, we like these types of reports that show success, and especially successful accreditation. Right, Cindy? That's right. Thank you very much. Hi, good evening. You're next and ready without me even calling you up.
Oh, I just jumped up here.
How could I stand? He was done, I guess he was.
He's done.
He
is.
I'm sorry.
No, he's done.
And I wasn't really going to give a report, but then I thought I had two things. So, the first is item number 13 on the agenda tonight, which is the memorandum of understanding between Sequoia COS and the University Preparatory High School. This class is being offered right now, and it happened so fast. I understand why the MOU won't be happening almost after the fact. But the Senate has some issues with these types of sponsored classes. We will be bringing you a resolution at the next board meeting on what we would like to see happen in these classes. Basically, the resolution is going to ask for an evaluation of the 5 classes that we offer now before continuing on to expand or grow the program. So we mentioned this at a couple of other board meetings, so just in that same line. The other thing I've given you is, and I was joking with Cindy that I'm stalking Bill Scroggins. This is Bill Scroggins' board report from February the 8th. And the reason I'm giving it to you is it is so rich in the conversation about completion. And even though he's one of the main movers statewide of getting Jerry Brown to make completion a funding mechanism, even if Jerry Brown doesn't do that, he's very right about completion is now also part of, or will become part of our accreditation. So if you look on page 2 at the bottom, and of course this is this is from last week, Barbara Bino sent out an attached memo citing a mandated focus to student achievement. And there are 6 new standards that we didn't have to address in this accreditation, but we will be having to address them every year, as will all community colleges. And there's quite the explanation for why this is going to happen. But I think it's a very interesting dichotomy, the access versus the completion for or success of students. And at the very end of this, on page 3, Bill makes mention of a letter or paper that was written by Andrew Benton on college completion must be our priority. And they cite 3 things that have to happen for us to be successful at this. One is changing the campus climate or the culture. And I think that's going to be very important to us when we start doing our planning process that Dr. Lacerna mentioned before. Because planning for student completion is very different than planning for student access. Also improving cost effectiveness and quality. And again, as Dr. Lacerna mentioned, making better use of data to boost success. So I thought the two things, accreditation and this completion agenda, kind of dovetail together in a way that I hadn't really understood until I read this. So that's why I brought it to you.
CSEA?
Off of CSEA, I left postcards on the counter in front of you. Just, they will go out next week. Tickets go on sale for our Big Spring musical, Jekyll and Hyde. Opens March 15th, so I just wanted to make sure everybody knows. I'll leave some more with Jen, but they will go in the mail next week. It's going to be an exciting musical.
No kids allowed. PG-13.
If most kids you know playing the video games, it's going to be pretty tame compared to
I'll
the
leave
video
my
games. My report tonight is, I'll keep it short. I just wanted to thank both Stan and John. There's been a number of issues come forward lately, and they all relate to, as I was telling Stan the other day, they were growing pains, lack of money pains, and lack of workforce pains. And unfortunately, one of the causes of that is when your workforce is overworked, underfed, trying to manage 3 new campuses, tempers seem to fly. So there's been a number of issues we've been working on, but I would like to thank both of them for working with me, and we've been meeting a lot and trying to get everything under control. There's just growing pains. Growing pains are hard. We're growing. So I just wanted to thank them and continue to work with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Ms. Hopper, Mr. Nichol? He was here. Was he?
Yeah, he's
Okay. Report there. We'll move on to our general obligation bonds. These are just information. The next scheduled meeting for Visalia is February 26th at 5:30, and for Tulare on February 25th at 4. And the board will be having a study session right after that, right, Stan?
Correct.
And Tulare at 5:30. Okay? So if anyone is interested in that, the board will be meeting, doing a study session on the Tulare bonds on February 25th following this Measure J meeting. On to information items. First up is our audit report.
As you'll recall, every year the district must submit to an annual audit that not only verifies the financial results that we pass on to the state, but also verifies the processes that produce those results. And tonight we have with us Ms. Samantha Moore from the CPA offices of Bavernick, Trine, and Day to share those results.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. And before I get started, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you, the board, for having Leangela and Linda and their staff available for us. They're great to work with. We always look forward to coming and seeing them, and they're very helpful and supportive and make the process go very smoothly. So I just wanted to thank you for having them available for us. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit some highlights. So as I go along, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to stop me, or you can wait until the end. I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit, so let me know if I lose you. I'm going to start off with your management discussion and analysis, which is on pages 4 through 10. And this is the district prepared document that's to be used in conjunction with the audited financial statements that are included here. And it contains some condensed information for select financial statements. And also what it does with those statements is it reports the current year data and the 2 previous years' data and reports the change. But the primary thing about the MD&A is that it gives the districts a chance to talk a little bit about itself. It's a topic specific to the district. For example, on page 5, under financial highlights, one item noted was that the general fund unrestricted ending fund balance ended with approximately $2.8 million, and the state systems office recommends a reserve level of approximately 5%, and the district exceeded that, having a reserve percentage of 6.29%. And then on page 10, there's economic factors affecting the future of the college, and one such item noted there was state funding allocations continued to include intra and inter-year deferments causing additional interest costs to the district. And next, I'd like to jump to the back to page 83. These are your fund statements, and it's actually pages 83 to 88. It's the fund statements, your balance sheet, statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, as well as, or your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in retained earnings. It's broken down by governmental fund statements, which is pages 83 and 84, proprietary fund statements, which is pages 85 and 86, and then fiduciary fund statements, which is pages 87 and 88. And under your proprietary fund statements, an example of that is your cafeteria fund, and under your fiduciary statements is your student financial aid fund, for example. And then going back to page 83, your governmental funds, just discuss a little bit about the general fund. As you'll note, your total assets for the year were approximately $16.5 million. However, of that balance, it was comprised of $12.9 million, or 78% of the total assets was accounts receivable. And of that accounts receivable balance, nearly $10 million of that was your state apportionment deferrals. And if you want to see some further detail relating to your accounts receivable, you can see the note on page 33. But however, in comparison to in 2007, prior to the major fiscal crisis, you'll notice that your accounts receivable and your assets were, your accounts receivable to your total assets was only 49%. And of that 49% accounts receivable balance, 9.9 million, 8 million was your state apportionment. So we just, as you know, the governor's budget has come out, and it looks to like the district will receive some additional revenues. However, it's important to note that the budget is in the approval process, so revisions will be made. So we're not clear yet as to what the final outcome is. So we just encourage you to be cautiously optimistic, because like I said, we don't know what's going to be the finalized numbers, and we continue to encourage you to closely monitor your cash flows, because again, as I had previously mentioned, of your $16.5 million, 78% of that is accounts receivable, which is not a readily available cash. And then I'd like to...
Can I ask a quick question on that same page 83?
Sure.
I noticed a nice round number in other liabilities of $4.5 million. Would you happen to know what that's referring to?
That is your note, your credit line that you have, and I believe...
Exactly. We had to borrow that because the state's holding $12.9 million of our dollars.
Right.
We just explained it, and that's why we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest to cover that. Okay, makes sense.
And the state doesn't pay back on the interest, right?
No.
They have the consequence of waiting to pay us. Who else gets to do that?
Yeah, exactly. They don't wait for us to pay our taxes. They charge us interest on that. And now, next I'd like to flip back to toward the front on pages 11 to 14. This is your entity-wide statements. And this is for your primary government. And what these are, it takes those fund financial statements and consolidates them to give a more concise look at what is going on within the district for the end user of the reports. And again, you have on page 11 is your statement of net assets. On page 12 is your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net assets. And then on pages 13 and 14 are your cash flows. Each of these statements report your current year data and also your prior year data for that respective financial statement. And in your statement of net assets, there's a couple things I'd like to point out. If you go under your non-current assets on the line item, non-depreciable capital assets, which you're probably more familiar with the term construction in progress, you'll see that there was approximately a $37.4 million increase. This is the result of your ongoing projects here at the main campus, as well as in Tulare and Hanford. And if you want to see a little bit further detail explaining these changes, as well as your existing fixed assets and any new ones, you can look on page 34, note 6, that's your capital asset footnote. And then a little further down, under non-current liabilities, the long-term liabilities non-current portion, you'll see there was a change, also a significant increase. And this was due in part to a bond anticipation note that the district issued for approximately $11.5 million, as well as $2.2 million in accrued interest for the 7 capital appreciation bond issuances that you have currently outstanding. And next I'd like to go on to page 37. This is...
Could I look at page 12 just very briefly?
Sure.
Tell me about, down towards the bottom of the page, income or loss before other revenue and expenses. We have a loss this year of $3.8 million, a loss last year of $3.5 million. So what should concern me about that trend?
It's unfortunately a result, again, of the ongoing fiscal crisis, and it's the district having to make hard decisions to keep you guys going. It's just, unfortunately, you've got those deferrals, so you're kind of in a situation where you're having to deficit spend. And hopefully
Okay,
you can just...
you said the word that I wanted to hear.
Oh. Okay.
Well, want is
Didn't
probably
hear, but I And below that, am I correct, then under other revenues, these are the state revenues and for the construction projects that are underway.
Yes.
So that's not really operational money.
No, that's
construction.
restricted money for a specific purpose.
Gotcha, thank you.
And then next I'd like to go on to page 37. Just a little bit further discussion about your long-term obligations. It's note number 10. This is just a summary of each debt issuance that the district currently has outstanding. And then below that is a brief paragraph that discusses where each debt classification is paid by or from. For example, payments on the general obligation bonds are made out of the bond interest and redemption fund from local property tax revenues. The total long-term obligations reported in this note as of June 30th was approximately $111.8 million. And then if you want to see a little bit further detail regarding each classification of debt, they're in the pages that are following. And again, it just breaks down, it kind of briefly describes what the debt issuance is, the debt payment schedule, for example. So for your certificates of participation, they're detailed on pages 39 and 40. And then on pages 40 to 47 is your bonded debt. And what that encompasses is your general obligation bonds, your lease revenue bonds, as well as your bond anticipation note. And then lastly, on page 47 is your accumulated, unpaid, and fully compensation and your capital leases.
Samantha, just briefly again, on page 39, the certificates of participation,
yes.
is the source of repayment for these monies the general fund or what? Does it say that?
Your payments of the certificates of participation are from the general fund and the student center trust. That's indicated, if you wanted to see, it's in that paragraph below the summary on page 37. I just picked one particular item out of that note to point out where it was paid from, but it kind of gives a brief description of where those debts are funded from. And then lastly, I'd like to wrap up on page 76. This is your summary of auditor's results, and you'll see for each opinion area, financial statements, federal awards, and state awards, you'll see that there's an unqualified opinion issued. I know it doesn't sound good, but it is the best opinion that we can issue for each area. And basically what that means for your financial statements, that in all material respects, it presents fairly financial position of the district. And for your federal awards, those are your federal programs such as your Student Financial Aid Cluster, that no instances of material noncompliance were noted in the programs that we selected for testing. And then under your state awards, you'll see it's unqualified as well, and that's relating to, for example, your attendance, your testing of the full-time equivalent, that no instances of noncompliance were noted in the programs that the state requires us to test. And then lastly, on pages 78, 77, 78, and 79. These are your findings by category. You'll see that they all say none reported. That's indicating that there were no deficiencies of a level that should be elevated to the financial statements and needs to be reported. Again, that's to complement Leangela as well as her staff, as well as Linda too. And then lastly, you'll see on page 80, there was a prior year finding. It's regarding the to be arranged hours, your lab hours. It was because the online catalog or the official schedule did not contain TBA information. But again, this is was a common finding last year, had an easy fix, and the district has implemented corrective action relating to that finding. And then you'll see also there were no management letter findings. Those are a letter that would have come to the district board in a separate item. Again, that's to say that there is no internal control deficiencies that were not, because we have management letters that aren't significant enough to be in your audit report, but are may need corrective action. So we we term them significant, but not a material weakness, for example. And there were none of those. And those usually relate to, say, controls over cash receiving procedures or payroll or personnel issues, for example. Any questions? Any other questions?
How have your, the way you guys do your audits in terms of what's happened over the past couple of years with state budgets, has it changed the requirements for you specifically in the way these are done, or is it pretty much the same, you just have more work because there's more information?
Yeah, it's a little, it's not so much the budget, it's, I mean, it kind of changed what we look at because we're going to monitor closer if you're, like I said, if you see that, if say, districts were putting out deferral days, for example, we're just seeing we're more closely monitoring your budgeting to make sure that you guys are making the necessary reductions. I know that you've met your reserve percentage and you're actually in excess, but it says more to the fact that the district and the business office as well are willing to make the hard decisions and do what's necessary to maintain the health of the district without significantly hurting the students and the programs that are available. Because, like I said, we know it's hard times, but unfortunately, it requires tough decisions to be made, and unfortunately, not everybody's always on the winning end of it, but it will overall, for the betterment of the district.
So when we hear like what happens in maybe Stan or both of you can answer this for me, when we hear what's happening in San Francisco and down in LA and some colleges, does this audit work with accreditation for the state to make its decision on when colleges are put on probation? How does it work with the audit, or when is this information presented?
Yeah, the audit for us is an annual protocol that can be data that I think, based on an accreditation, if part of what an accrediting team did when they went in to review a community college was to, initially they'd interview and work with the business office just like the accrediting team did when they came to look at us. But they do request your financial documents. So they look at your audits, they look at your budget documents, and they look at your state reports. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that they work hand in hand with your external auditor as much as they take that data and the trend data that's been developed a 2 or 3 year period of your external audits, lay them down against your financial reports to the state, against your internal operations, and triangulate all of that in order to be able to make a decision. And when they find out that you're in trouble, then they rise to the level of a recommendation.
Would she have to report, if she found somebody that was really in trouble and it had, wouldn't you have to report that to her?
Oh, yes, we definitely would. That's where I said we would monitor your budgeting processes. Because there isn't very many districts that aren't deficit spending, but we're looking at that to see that you're not a going concern, which means that you may not be able to meet your financial obligations. And so we're looking at like your 311s to make sure that you're on pace and, like I said, and would be able to go as a going concern. Otherwise, we would, it can be a finding in the report. It could be just a note in the audit report as well. It depends. There's several steps depending on your health, the fiscal health of the district, as to how much we have to put in here. and what would be disclosed.
And I suspect in a situation where a community college is going through an accreditation and rising to the level of a sanction for fiscal instability or mismanagement, they're going to have findings in what was their most recent annual audit or two. 1 or 2 years in a row, they're going to have had some findings.
Right, I guess, so the process is there in order to ensure that it doesn't take a few years to catch it. But I guess that's what as a board member, I'm wondering if the red flag is there, it's going to come out here.
Yeah.
It's going to come out in accreditation, but with accreditation, because they're using a number of financial reports to make their findings.
And typically, there's been a period of time where the district didn't demonstrate the ability to make any of the corrections, and then it's going to result in a sanction or some sort of a warning or a watch list, which is what happened to those community colleges this year.
So they don't necessarily wait for
if I'm wrong, but as an independent auditor, you would be obligated to either disclose to us in some sort of footnote disclosure or in the opinion to the financial statements whether you had, the independent auditors had concerns
Oh, yes,
about
like I
the
said.
district
And
meeting its obligations for the
it would
next
never
fiscal
get
year.
to the audit report without us first going to Linda and Leangela and Stan. I mean, there are steps that if we saw it, something, in question that like, okay, you guys are significantly deficit spending, what are you guys doing? And we might, say something to them, and then the next year it might be not a going concern, but a fiscal condition finding, which is a slightly lower level, but we're letting you know and then giving you the opportunity to take the corrective action you need, but also showing that we're doing our due diligence by letting you, the board, and the district know that we're not going to, 3 years down the road, you're a going concern, you're not going to make your payroll, and without letting you know.
Flag.
Yeah.
So when a college gets put on sanction, where does it come from? Accreditation or from this audit? How does it?
It comes from the ACCJC, the accrediting commission.
Makes the sanction, okay. So, so they're put on watch then that next year. So I guess there is some delay, but not much once you get the sanction. And
The watch list status out of the chancellor's office and the ACCJC gives you 9 months, basically 1 academic year, to correct your problem.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
I like the way you reported that.
Me too.
Thank you.
You bounced it around, but it was it
Yeah.
made sense how you did it. So that was good. At first I thought, well, how are we going to keep up? But now, very organized. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Leanne, you're up. Now your job seems almost easy. Yours is only a few pages.
First is the 311Q for the second quarter. This is ending December 31st. And as you look at the first page, we focus on the column on the far right side, the projected 12-13 ending balances. One thing I would note here is if you look at line C, revenues over or under expenditures, we show a fund balance draw of $1,094,000. That's a combination of the fund balance draw of $700,000 and then a MA fund balance draw of $400,000. MA is our Medi-Cal admin allowance. Basically categorical dollars that are considered unrestricted. So we do have to report them as unrestricted dollars, but they do only spend the money that they bring in. So it's not a draw on our overall reserve, just on their own funds that they've brought in prior years. The reason this still shows a deficit is this is as of December 31st. So the fiscal solvency plan had not been implemented. The Prop 30 budget changes had not gone in at this point in time because we were waiting for you to approve them at the January board meeting. On the next page at the top focuses on cash. And this section was really added when the state started deferring all of our funds. They are keeping an eye on our cash flow because they realize it is a problem. As you see there, line H1, our cash, excluding borrowed funds, is negative $3,187,000. Our borrowed funds are $10 million, so our ending cash was $6.8 million. The cash is high there because I drew down funds from our tax revenue anticipation note so that we could pay off our municipal lease of $4.5 million so that we could get that in line to be renewed.
So that's why the large balance there. I had drawn down the money, but the bank requested that we not pay it back until January. Are there any questions on this report? There is a footnote stating the savings that we have from the benefits cap. That's also noted in here. Are there any
Oh, yeah, just on page 1 of your report, line C, the beginning fund balance, 1112, 2,730,000. Would that number at some point reconcile to the final number on this audit report, which is like 2.8, if I remember correctly?
There's actually a footnote in the audit, I don't remember the page, but it actually reconciles their audit to our 311. And the difference is our fair market value, where they have to gross settle our investments.
So it does reconcile?
Yes. Are there any other questions? The next report is the budget accountability reports. As you see there on the first report is the report that comes to you monthly on consent calendar. We pull off for the quarter budget accountability reports just to go over it in a little more detail. It compares the working budget that we're asking you to approve at tonight's meeting to what you approved back in January at your January 14th meeting. And then it gives footnotes for the changes. I always draw your attention to the fund balance draw box that's on the lower half of the page. This is really what you should keep your eye on, because it's putting a spyglass on how we're spending our reserve, unrestricted reserve only though. So as you see here, as of February 11th, our fund balance draw is down at 0 because we've started implementing the fiscal solvency plan that you approved in January. If you look at footnote A, our revenue limit increased by $3,081,000. This is due to the Prop 30 passage. So we removed the 2.7 workload reduction that had been put in there in case Prop 30 did not pass. We also put in the $366,000 that's approximately coming to us for restoration. If you go to footnote B, this is various categorical carry forward budgets were put in there. The DRC had an increase of 51. And then there's 2 new grants, the Career Technical Education Pathway number 6 and the Valley Can Air new grants. Letter C shows that our one-time indirect usage of reserve. If you remember, that's usually the 996,408. That's our mandate cost reserve and our indirect reserve. As we're implementing portions of the fiscal solvency plan, that actually calls for using less of that reserve so that we will have it in future fiscal years if we need it. If you look at the expense footnotes, it notes out any increases. Most of these are due to implementing the fiscal solvency plan. If you look at footnote F, we put back in the retiree health insurance cost because the fiscal solvency plan calls for us not utilizing the irrevocable trust, so it's there for future use. It's also going towards funding our actuarial liability. So it's more fiscally sound to not utilize that reserve. Also, the health insurance cap was implemented, so the health insurance budget did decrease. Section H also has some of the fiscal solvency plan. The COP's interest increased by $226,000 because we are no longer utilizing the Measure I funds, so that those will be there in a future year if necessary. And then the contract service decrease of $57,000. That was due to ABC electricians' expense being less than anticipated. Letter I is the technology increase. That's moving technology, which is an ongoing expense of the general fund that we had planned to spend out of Measure I. Since Prop 30 passed, we're now pulling that back into the general fund where it actually belongs. Letter J is the actual debt
the principal portion of the COP payments that will be made by the general fund. Were there any questions on this report?
I really like this report, just so you know, this is the one I go straight to, because it's been so consistent that it's easy to follow and understand from month to month, so I really appreciate this one.
Great, we like to hear that. The next report is the revenue annual projections. So this is as of December 31st, we're projecting out where our revenue will be. As you can see there, the state revenue went up by the $3 million, which is the Prop 30 revenue that I just went over. And then also within the state revenue, we had first quarter lottery is usually not received until January. So there's a considerable lag time on lottery funds. So it's just a little note there that we haven't received any yet. The local revenue is the decrease in the one-time indirect mandate cost reserve because of the savings due to the fiscal solvency plan. And then the increase of $59,000 is due to the student material fees budget going in. So those fees are actually charged to the student. So there's an offsetting, this is the revenue portion, and then the expense portion is offset input. And it goes in late in the year because we don't add it until the last drop date. Were there any questions on the revenue projections? I apologize on the expense projections. The wrong report got added in, so I have printed out the summary for you. What was accidentally included in your packet was the monthly detail, which is very small print.
I know, I was reading.
So this is summarizing that small monthly detail. So this is as of December 31st. Again, gives your adopted budget, your working budget, and then our annualized projections. It then compares our annualized projections to the working budget, and you see there that we're on track for our spending. You'll notice that this is the first month that we haven't shown that we're deficit spending and benefits, and that's due to the cap going in and in the Prop 30 revenue also. Were there any questions on the expense report? The final report is your quarter ending December 31st, a snapshot of all the different fund groupings. I just want to remind you that this is a snapshot of a point in time, so it's not what we're projecting our ending fund balance to be. So if you see general fund, the first column on the left-hand side shows as of December 31st ending fund balance of negative $3 million. And that's due to state deferrals and the revenue dollars not coming in until later in the year. We do not project that our ending balance would be a negative $3 million. There's a footnote here on the cash portion of the general fund. At December 31st, we owed the Valley Business Bank municipal lease $3.5 million. And the tax revenue anticipation note of $5 million. The municipal lease was paid off in January, so we currently owe $0 on that. Capital projects, I have been pleasantly surprised that the state is actually paying on our invoicing. So they're running their normal 60-day lag time. And instead of, at the beginning of the year, they were telling us they weren't going to pay at all because they were having issues with selling their bonds. So it's they found some other types of financing and COS was on the list to get paid. So it's been very pleasant for capital projects. Were there any questions on these fund groupings or anything you wanted me to highlight? Any questions?
Okay, we're on to information item number 4. Our ARC scorecard.
Okay, the accountability reporting for community college, the ARC report, we are required to report out the findings on that every year to the board by March, and so this is our annual presentation. This report basically measures our student success rates, but it also measures how we compare to other colleges. So if you can see in the attachment, we actually had improvement over the last year in 3 areas, which are our annual successful course completion for basic skills, our ESL improvement rate, and our annual successful course completion for vocational courses. If you look at the first, I don't know if you guys want me to go through the whole table with you or how you want me to do it, but the first tables are our student progress and achievement for degree, certificate, and transfer. And so if you look across, for example, table 1.1 is our student progress and achievement rate. And so this is students who transfer to a 4-year college or an AA or a certificate or a transfer directed or transfer prepared. And it just compares our 2003 through 2009 through the current. So we're down slightly in that area. In the next area, students who earn at least 30 units were improved in that area. The next one is our persistence rate, so that's students who returned to a subsequent term, and we're slightly down in that area, but it's not really significant. It's really close to what we were. On the next page, table 1.3 is our annual successful course completion rate for vocational courses, and we've remained steady exactly where we were on there. The next ones is where we've shown a lot of improvement, which some of that is based to how we were coding our ESL and our basic skills classes, and we spent a lot of time going through and coding things based on some state changes. And so as you can see, we've improved in our completion rates for basic skills, for ESL, and we are now able to, 1.6, we didn't have career development, college preparation courses before, but those are our ESL non-credit courses and certificates that we have. On table 1.7, it's just our annual indicated head count, our FTES, and then this is more general. Our 1.8 is our students' age, gender of students. Most of those have remained pretty steady. Table 1.10 is our ethnicity, and you can see on that one we've had an increase in the Hispanic students for 10-11. That has to do with the way that we also are gathering information from our students statewide on ethnicity, and you can see most of the increase used to be in the unknown or no respondent, and those have moved up into the Hispanic area. The next table, 1.11, is our peer grouping. And basically, this compares what our numbers is. So the first row, colleges rate, is our rate. It compares to our peer group. So those are colleges similar to us. Our peer group low, so the lowest in our peer group, the highest in our peer group. And so in each of them, in the first one, we're mid-range with our other colleges. The second one, we're higher than than the average of our peer group. We're about mid-range on number C. We're equal to our peer group on letter D. We're equal to our peer group on letter E. We're about mid-range for letter F, and we're about mid-range to higher than our peer group on letter G. So this is what this is our ARC report for this year. Any questions?
Now, we talked about this at retreat a little bit, and this is the one that's going to change, correct?
The scorecard, yes. This will turn into the scorecard that Michelle presented for us at the board retreat. So they're expanding that.
Jennifer?
For next year.
Yes. They should be implementing it.
I thought you were going to see it in March.
Yeah.
That's how you were true.
Right.
It's not.
Just for my understanding, do we know who is in our peer group?
Yeah, we do. There's a larger, this report that you see here comes in a larger report that has every community college in it. And so in that report, I didn't bring that entire packet to you. It shows who our like colleges are. I can send them to you.
Okay,
So it doesn't necessarily.
I know there's some similar college ranking or something, some criteria. I just am interested to see who
It's
that is.
really, there's a whole definition of how they choose the
Right.
peer colleges, and it's really complicated.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it's not necessarily colleges in the Central Valley, it's colleges with a similar student makeup, similar size, that kind of thing, so.
And then Jennifer, they're like a year off then, obviously, so
It's
these numbers
always-
get a year off.
It's always year behind. These are actually our 2010 numbers that we're reporting it on.
So when do you report, you report yearly, what time of the year do you give all this information to do this?
They actually give us the information. It's based off our MIS report, so it's everything that we have in our student database, and they compile everything we have in our student database, and they send it to us. And then we look at it, say, is it right or wrong? We prepare the response which is what you see on the very last page. That's our response. And then that is what goes into the final report that they prepare and send out with all of the colleges in March or April.
So the comment Jennifer made earlier about some of our numbers looking better because we examined how we code and actually enter our material. They're extracting from student information system database we already have, and if our input isn't good, our outcome's not going to be accurate. So we've made some corrections.
And we've always had issues with our ESL report part of this, and it was because of the way we were coding things, but the state actually changed their coding system 2 years ago. So we went through and recoded everything that we had, and that's made a huge difference in the way our ESL results look.
And now, any of the technology we talked about at retreat, is it going to be used for any of this, or no? Some of the technology discussions we had, or reporting, not necessarily?
Trying to jog my memory about which ones. The one that Michelle presented on the scorecard, yes, but I'm not sure which other ones we talked about. Do you remember? Do you know which ones?
But this reporting, in terms of the way it's done with the technology we have, I'm saying is up to date and efficient.
Yes.
That's my question.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm trying to make sure these numbers are as credible as they can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it goes back to kind of what we were talking about with our research office. We need to have as strong a research office as we can, and then also the MIS office, which is where Tim Hollabaw's area with all of the staff that we have there. And it's a lot of checks and balances and just making sure everybody understands what we are inputting is what we are, is what gets reported.
Right.
So.
Input in and results out.
So we're spending a lot of time this year to double checking all those inputs.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next report is me as well. This is a low enrolled classes justification report. I have an update. This is I report out to you at the beginning of each semester on any low enrolled courses. And it's honestly a constantly moving number because we have certain classes that will start later in the term, and we have certain classes that, like our ESL, our Spanish, our foreign languages, they're constantly moving students around to make sure that they are in the right level that they should be. So this is the newest numbers as of today. And as you can see, we used to have several pages list of this report, and now it's very small. The deans have worked really closely with the division chairs to make sure we're offering the exact courses that we need at the times that we need to fill the best we can. So most of the courses that you see, for example, in agriculture is required, they're either an advanced class or required for a certificate. The same for business. For fine arts, they have to deal with our honors program and with our theater. And so like the stage lighting, you can't really have more than 12 students working on lighting at one time. And Mr. Lamar has assured me that they will fall off the lighting beams. So we're kind of okay with 12 in that class. The symphony, for example, they're still registering that class starts late. Industry and technology, those are all advanced courses. In language arts, ESL is the one that is our moving target, and we still have students registering. So those numbers do show low, but our new interim dean, Stephanie Collier, who's here, she's working very closely with the ESL department and as well as the counseling department and student services to make sure that we get those classes to where they need to be this semester and in the future. On the back, we have a couple of language arts classes. One is still adding students, the English 2. The English 251 was at Tulare. And we had a lot of issues this year about students not realizing what the Tulare campus was. So they showed up here and then realized their English classes was in Tulare. So we gave them a little leeway for that. And we have all of that, we hope, resolved for next year. Again, with our language courses, those are advanced courses. So we tend to have a little bit lower numbers. For math, nursing, and those are classes that are the last in a sequence of courses, so those student enrollment's a little bit lower. Our physical education, they're still enrolling, and one is for a team, and then science is the same, they're the last course in an advanced sequence of classes. So that's our low enrolled justification report. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions? Good. Okay, we'll move on to consent calendar.
Madam Chair, I would like to ask that item 18 be removed from the consent calendar.
She's not taking comment from the public on this right now.
All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. An item may be removed from the consent calendar at the request of any member of the Board of Trustees or any person in the audience and considered as a separate agenda item. I'm not going to read the items. Mr. Sins recommended we remove item 12. How do I handle that, Stan? Do we just say at this point we're going to remove it based on this comment?
You can, and we can talk about it separately, and then you can consider action on that after there's any further discussion, if that's the board's pleasure.
We'll take off item 8.
Item 8.
Item 18.
So,
If you'd like to pull item 18, you can make that request.
I make that.
Okay, and then we can talk about 18 separately.
okay, so we pulled item 8. We need to make just a typographical, I guess, correction on item 9. That's supposed to be 2013, just for information purposes. On the working budget. So we'll remove item 8. We will remove item 12. And we'll remove item 18.
And then you can take, you can consider a motion on the remainder of that consent, approve that, and then come back and take those other 3 items one at a time.
One at a time. Okay. So do I have a motion to
So moved. Second.
second, all those in favor of approving the items that I mentioned with the exception of the 3 that I pulled, signify by saying aye. Motion passes. Okay, then now at this point, we will move on to item 8.
So, yeah, board member Zumwalt requested that we pull item 8. You can open the floor now for discussion, and then we can consider that item
All
separately.
right, the payments are broken in 2 categories. There's the district vendor payments and the farm vendor payments. If you look at the district vendor payments in general, on most of the items, you can read at them and kind of figure out what they're for. It's not perfect, but you more or less can tell what they're for. It'd be nice if there were more explanation, but the farm vendor payments, you can't tell a thing. And I think that in the future, it would be most helpful if there was more explanation. When you just say, sorry farm, or equine unit, it doesn't tell us much. Now, I don't know that I want to hold anybody's feet to fire on this one, but I'm making a point issue out of this to hope that in 2 months, when these things come to us, we can kind of, in a casual way, give them more oversight if we know what it's for. If they buy a tractor, you get Morris, Levin and Son. I don't know what it's for.
John, I'll let you know that I guess when I look at them, 99% of them make sense. I know where they're going because I sit on the Ag Advisory Committee. But I have met, and our Ag Advisory Committee is trying to redraft some bylaws and make these payments part of the meetings that the Ag Advisory Committee has on they try to have 2 to 3 meetings a year. But in general, they're supposed to approve budgets, which I think is real important for those budgets to be looked at by the Ag Advisory Committee, especially when you get into the farming situation, and it is a lot of dollars going in and out of the farm in Tulare. I believe there maybe could be a few more.
I don't for a second think there's anything wrong.
No, you don't know where they're going. That makes sense.
I also think we're not discharging our responsibilities. We have no idea what we're looking at. Anyway, with that motion, with that comment for this month, I make a motion that we approve item 8.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Payment of bills has been approved.
And what we'll do in response to that is we'll work together to make sure that there's a little bit, I think really what we're talking about is providing a little bit more of a descriptor.
You need more column.
For each of the items.
Yeah, what I would say is, I think all you're looking for is probably the account code category that falls into.
Something that we have at our disposal that gives you a better description.
Well, if you notice, the other category is not perfect, but it's satisfactory.
Right.
Well, yeah, and if I took a look at this, John, I'll be honest, like the big ones, like the commodity, that's going to be for the animals, and like the Fletcher Dairy, those are going to be for the farming that Fletcher Dairy is doing, because the students aren't farming, so they're doing all the farming. So when I look at the big ones, they make sense to me, and if not, then I'll call Larry. But when I look at it, I guess from sitting on the Ag Advisory Committee, those make almost more sense to me than these other ones, although I look at these two.
Well,
But
maybe,
you're right.
maybe you need another call.
Yeah.
We can address it
And
with
I'm not
additional
looking for-
descriptors.
I'm not looking for a report, I'm looking for 3 words.
Yep.
We got it, okay.
Okay, now we will take item
Next one is 12.
12.
And the request was made to pull the Center for Applied Competitive Technologies and the Business Industry Community Services Training Center. I guess the concern, if I remember it as was expressed, was just that there's questions about the credit and non-credit offering of courses. I think this is a pretty well-established program in practice. I don't believe that there's anything, inappropriate or wrong with this, although there have been some concerns expressed. I don't know if Brent or Jennifer or Larry want to speak to the item so that the board can have a little bit better understanding what it is, but you're going to have to come up here, Larry, and do it from the podium so we can jump on board.
I do, and if I may, I
Oh, I'm
have
sorry.
Mr. Sens's comments that you'd like to address. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, that might help.
Thank you.
And then we'll be ready to respond, Larry, thanks.
I'm Lisa Greer, and I'm the president-elect for the Teachers Association for COSTA. And Ed asked me in his absence to go ahead and share with you what the concerns are. Historically, BICS classes have been continuing education courses and have been offered for no credit. Offering these classes for credit may present some contractual and curriculum issues. It appears that BICS CCAT courses for credit may be contracting out unit member work. Any and all BICS CCAT courses for credit should meet the scheduling contractual requirements, whereby full-time faculty have first choice selection. The classes need to be on the grid. This has not been the case in the past. The association has yet to receive this assurance. BICS CCAT courses for credit should be taught in the same time frame as other courses for credit. In other words, the courses should either be short-term, summer, or one-semester courses. And the BICS CCAT courses should meet the approval requirements of the curriculum committee as for other credit classes.
Thank you.
Is this the first time that we have done this?
No, let Larry respond.
About 3 years ago, this institution was in a growth mode. And so the board had asked, let's grow FTES for the campus. And so that's when we started a truck driving program, electrician program, certain welding programs and those kinds of things. Dr. Oserna sent me a new form called an Instructional Service Agreement, an ISA. So the contracts that you see going through for ACI, Advanced Career Institute, and for the BICS CAC Center, which is the Center for Applied Competitive Technologies, those need to be revised to coincide with the changes in the ISAs, Instructional Service Agreements. So we had approved, while we're in this growth mode, to have the CAC Center and the BICS Center offer 4 credit courses to generate FTES. When we started the program in electrician, we had 575 electricians. Now, Leangelo was just up here saying, well, we reduced and saved some money on ABC down in Bakersfield because what we did was we moved that to a 4-credit program on this campus, okay? Now, what Lisa's talking about is we have this C6 grant, the TAACT grant, part of the $20 million West Hills grant that I partnered with West Hills to do this individual training, okay? When we started that program, it was going to be a not-for-credit program, period. And then as it evolved, they told us it needs to be a credit program. So what Lisa's referring to is simply that, hey, we have a training program in which the outcome has to be a job. We are being funded for that, but they want us to have credit. So we put an industrial maintenance class and welding classes in the schedule, contracting with VIX, no different than we do with ACI, with Estes Cosmetology, with all those programs. And so we, the board, approved 3 years ago this same exact contract with the old ISA in it, okay? Then with the new independent service agreement, which is this contract here, we're renewing that with the new standard. So, yes, we are offering, that's totally allowable by Title V and Ed Code, and so we're doing everything that we can to get through the requirements of this grant by offering credit.
And do these credit classes, this is either for Larry or Jennifer, but I understood that these credit classes were offered in terms of how we schedule classes, the same as all other four credit classes.
They are, and we're, and that's, there's two different, like Larry said, two different grants that we're talking about. This one is updating the ISA, and the other one is the TAACCT one. That's the one that Costa and Senate both have submissions with, and those aren't the ones that are before you now. But those are, in fact, we pulled the not for credit for the spring so that we can work with Costa through spring to make sure that we follow all of the procedures to have those in the program, or in the schedule properly for fall. So
these courses related to this consent agenda item have been previously approved by the board and previously offered and now are being brought back to you because there's a revised instructional service agreement to renew these again and do them as we have in the past.
and that came from the state, that there was a new format and for when we get audited on ISAs on how we have to present them.
So am I the only one that's confused, or the rest of the board members confused? So if there's a state, you're required by the state to do this, but I'm feeling like we're getting indication that it might not be in agreement with our contract with our faculty. So what happens, what comes next? What should we expect then?
No, we can't participate in a grant or a program that conflicts directly with the master agreement with Costa. So what Larry's pointing out is these courses do comply.
Yes, they're 4 credit courses. When we started on the C6 grant 2 years ago, we were going to do this all non for credit because we knew at that time we were going to have some issues offering 4 credit classes. And so the BIC Center and the CAC Center, Center for Applied Competitive Technologies, as an outside entity, we can contract them to offer 4 credit classes. I mean, we've done that for years around this place. And so the question from the faculty is simply this. When we look at the programs, we're starting them on the 19th of February, okay? Those are going to be 7.5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And what the whole program of the C6 is condensed. So we're taking a 2-year certificate welding program and we're going to offer that in about 6 months. We're going to take a 2-year industrial maintenance program and we're going to condense that down into about a 6-month period. And this was the whole intent of the grant. Is there a better mousetrap out there offering more intense training, job gold, because we have to place 70% of these students. And so we had to go out, recruit them, test them, and then bring them in the program. And in the welding side, as far as Costa goes, the welding is fine. But the industrial maintenance, they don't feel as fine. So that's what we love. It's okay to do the welding, but you can't do the industrial maintenance.
As a condition of the grant, we agreed to be part of developing new models, new ways to arrange time and delivery of the instruction for certification. And that's why these variances are existing. The key in terms of our master agreement is if it's a 4-credit course, is it being scheduled and offered for staff to select and be a part of the way all other 4-credit classes are. And that's why I asked them the confirming question. That's how these are being made available to the faculty.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the agreement before us with BFC.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any more discussion?
Just as a point of note, I'm going to have to leave after our next discussion, as I mentioned to you earlier, and I apologize for my conflict today, but I do will have to leave shortly. Thank you. You have.
He gave me those.
Lori, I pulled 18 because I'm really not sure what the conflict is, or
What I might do is ask.
do we even want to have them here, or are you recommending we have them here?
Right, probably the best person to give us a quick history would be Brent, to come up and talk a little bit about not only the mechanics of how the Carl's Jr. contract is put together, but the recent sequence of events that we've gone through. It's the issues, I think, that are being brought forward about student surveys and student satisfaction and the definitions of healthy foods and what we might consider as healthy food policies and descriptions on our campus are bigger than just this particular service contract. So there's nothing to say that we still can't look at and consider a number of those other factors that faculty have brought forward. The question is, this is one part of our cafeteria food service program, and the recommended renewal for their service agreement is based on the fact that they're as cost effective as that type of an outside vendor can be in providing cafeteria services on our campus. And I'll let Brent explain a little bit how that works.
Thanks, Dan. First, I want to just thank and commend Kayla, Matthew, see Phillips here too. All of them are interested. I know Paul's interested in this issue as well, and I want to assure them that the administration and me personally, we're all committed to making improvements over time with our food services, just to give the students the very best food options that we can, within our budget constraints and so forth. But I also want to emphasize that the Carl's Jr. piece is a third of what we offer. And even by Matthew's numbers, I think it was the 2003 survey said that there was 25% of our student population favored Carl's Jr. And the most recent one, 2009, cited 45% of our population frequents Carl's Jr. And I bet if you shared those numbers with the Carl's Jr. corporate folks and said, if you could get these numbers across your entire population, would you be satisfied with that? And I think they'd be ecstatic with that. And clearly, there's a piece of our population out here that enjoys going to Carl's Jr. And if that was 100% of what we offer, we'd have an issue, obviously. But it's not. It's a third of what we offer. The other 2/3 are made up of COS tacos, which you can get a variety of Mexican food, chicken bowls, and then here recently, in large part in response to the need that we've seen in student support, the campus newspaper asking for it, we've really tried to increase our offerings in terms of sandwiches, soups, salads. We're calling that COS Cafe. We rolled that out in about a 4-week period in the spring semester, piloting very well, and I think students and staff appreciate just that many more choices. That doesn't mean that we're done. This Carl's Jr. contract is an ongoing thing. Every 5 years, we're asked if we want to continue to be a franchisee, and if so, it costs us $5,000 to extend it for a 5-year period. Basically, a nominal price of $1,000 a year to be able to have the Carl's Jr. name and products and so forth. And what we pay for that is a percentage of our gross revenues. It's 8% of our gross sales goes back to the mothership. So as our soups and our salads and our sandwiches become more popular, or if we add new lines that take away from our Carl's Jr. revenue, our cost going back to Carl's Jr. goes down proportionately. So in our minds, signing up for this contract, all it does is protect the investment that we made 10, 15 years ago when we had the initial investment of whatever it was at the time, $50,000 to buy a franchise. This just protects that. And so we'll continue under the terms of that contract. But again, as if our other offerings, based on student demand and staff demand, if those other offerings become more popular and Carl's Jr. is de-emphasized, then our variable costs go down proportionately, and we're really not out much. So we see this as basically a win-win, protecting our initial investment, but then we're not on the hook for much. If in fact Carl's Jr. sales go down because we've offered new products, and who's to say that next year we may not even increase the offerings even more. Yes, Greg?
The number was 20,000 mentioned that we lose with Carl's Jr. That's a third of, now the COS Cafe, what's that cost us?
Well, I think Carl's Jr. doesn't lose us $20,000. Our entire food service, all those components, lost $25,000 last year, and obviously that's something that we're looking to correct, and that's part of why we introduced the new products that we have. We have plans to do some more things, including spruce up the cafeteria and change the ambiance a little bit. But if you look up and down the state at food service providers on a campus of this size, it's very, very difficult to turn a profit, as we in the business world would say, primarily because our costs are that much higher. We just talked about protecting our collective bargaining unit on the teacher side. Certainly that same issue applies on our classified staff side as well. And so if you look up and down the state, it's very difficult to turn a profit or even break even unless you go to a strictly vendor system or a taco truck or something like that. So on revenues of, I don't know, $800,000 last year, to lose $25,000, and again, that doesn't come out of the general fund, that comes out of the reserve that they've built up over time. We've got some time to get that corrected, and we intend to do so, but we feel like, given the fact that we have 3 times the operating costs of a traditional fast food restaurant, and we pay CSEA wages, not minimum wage. We pay full benefits, and we have other expenses that a traditional fast food restaurant would not have. So we have double or triple the cost of your average franchise, and yet we're open maybe a third of the time.
So we staff the Carl's Jr.?
Yes, it's our franchise. We own it. Mm-hmm. We're not open on weekends.
And
we're open very few.
CSEA wages.
I move we approve.
Are you done?
Well, I wasn't done.
Well, I'm not going to allow that if you have more to say.
Yeah, I can be done.
You can be done.
We'll defer to the motion on it.
Yes, I'll defer to the motion. Do you have a second?
Well, I'll second it, but I have some questions.
Okay, so we'll take the second and then we'll go to discussion.
Is this an exclusive? So then if McDonald's or Zumwalt Burgers go in there and open up and serve food, would you let us?
No.
So
this wouldn't preclude it, but our CSEA contract might, and we've been in recent discussions.
Well, I understand that, but that's not what I meant was if somebody else wanted to come in here and comply with the rules, they could.
Yes.
So then the argument isn't that they want somebody else instead, is that they just don't want this one.
Well, that's the argument by the few that we've heard from. But again, in Matthew's own data, there showed in our own sales show that there is a part of our population that does like Carl.
There was some talk about Subway looked at coming in here. What happened to that?
We're still talking with them. I think they were initially under the impression that we could just serve as a landlord, that they could come in and run the same operation here that they own, that they run right down the street. Great guys, by the way. And so we had a nice meeting after Academic Senate. We met actually for an hour and a half. And I'm hoping we'll go somewhere with that, but it would take more than just us being a landlord and them operating a subway like they would down the street.
The students would be way ahead if we could do that, but I recognize we can't.
Well, I would too. Like I said in the Academic Senate, I eat me some Subway.
That's still my question.
So what you're saying is that Carl's Jr. would have nothing to say if we said, okay, Subway, you can come in and set up a business side by side.
Correct. It wouldn't really be Subway coming in and setting up side by side. It would be us making the decision to partner with Subway as well.
Oh, okay.
But Subway, yeah, Subway could meet the same conditions and have the opportunity.
Yeah, I can see where Subway would be interested until they find out that they would have to pay what we'd have to staff the thing. And that's probably 3 times what it costs them to operate per employee.
That's what they shared with us when they came back for a longer meeting.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the Carl Jr. contract, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we are on to action items, and we're on to item number 19.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Hey, if you let me finish, I think I could ask you those questions before I ask them.
I'll try to keep it
Okay, John.
Good evening. The master agreement between the district and CASAFA is set to expire on June 30th, 2013. In anticipation of the expiration of our current collective bargaining agreement, both sides have presented sunshine proposals for tonight's board to consider. And the CASAFA presented theirs. They're now governed by the University Professional and Technical Employees, so that is a change for them, but it's still, we refer to them as CASAFA. I had a chance to speak with Mr. Nickel earlier tonight, and we apologize for having to run out. We had some business to take care of, and I assured him that that the board would consider CASAFA's initial collective bargaining proposal as well as the district's, which also is included within your board packet. So at this time, I'm simply asking that the board acknowledge receipt of both of these sunshine items as the first step in the collective bargaining process, often referred to as the sunshine process. I'd also point out that both proposals will be available for public review at the Office of Human Resources from 8 to 5 on Monday through Friday. And I would also ask the board hold a public hearing on March 11th of 2013, which would give the public the opportunity to give their public comments on both CASAFA's sunshine proposal as well as the district's sunshine proposal.
Second.
Okay, so moved and seconded. All those in favor of acknowledging receipt of the district and CASAFA's initial selective bargaining proposals, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. 20.
In a similar vein, this past October, the district and CSEA agreed to a 3-year contract, and that contract came to the board in November for official ratification. But one of the terms of that contract was that during the spring semester of 2013, both sides would come back with reopeners, a very limited amount of reopeners. The 2 reopeners would be salary and benefits, plus each side would have the opportunity to open up 1 additional article of the master agreement. The district has provided the board in the board's packet its sunshine proposal, and the article the district is interested in opening up during the reopener portion of this negotiation process has to do with transfers and site assignments, which is Article 16. Talked to Steve earlier tonight before he had to leave for class. He indicated that he would have CSEA's reopener sunshine proposal at the March 11th board meeting. But with that said, I would ask the board, however, to acknowledge receipt of the district's reopener sunshine proposal and announce that it is available for public review in the Office of Human Resources between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday. And I would also ask that the board hold a public hearing on March 11th, 2013 for the public to comment on the district's sunshine proposal on reopeners.
Do we have to do another public hearing then when they actually bring theirs? Or how does that work then?
We'll hold that in April.
Got it, so there will be another one then on their portion.
Yes.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, John. Item 21, Councilwoman Turner.
As promised, lots of curriculum this time and next time. The majority of this is 5-year review or removal of the repeatability language to meet our new state guidelines for no longer offering repeatable courses. So on the first page, the art is repeatability, 5-year review, the ESL is deleting repeatability. The next one, the electrical, excuse me, the electrician training. There are changes in the next 2 courses to meet what is called the National Electric Code Standards. So there was a change in the units and the hours required for the next 2. In the next, the fashion class is removal of repeatability, 5-year review for geography, repeatability for music, 5-year review for the concert choir, course title change for the next music, then a course title change for the other music. There was a major revision to the nursing based on board recommendations. And the next one is also repeatability. The PS 208, 209, those are the firearms. They're new short-term classes for our police academy. On the next page, we have sports medicine, 5-year review, and then repeatable course for the next 2. And then our aero courses is changes in additional training for our public safety pilot operations for the next 2 classes. On the next page, the Fashion 263, also it's a new non-transfer course to improve the courses we're offering with our fashion. And you'll see later there's several that they deleted to add this course. The next 2, 3 are to deal with the repeatability issues in athletics, or in PE, I should say. Again, on the next page, you'll see they're all PE. These are all new courses. The entire next page to deal with the repeatability issues. Again, on the next page, the SMED are also repeatability. So the entire next page is is repeatability issues. Then we start with the deletions, and basically we're moving to delete courses that we're no longer using but are still on our records. And that is the case with the CFS course, both CFS courses, the child development course, the parenting course, the education course, the 3 fashion courses, and the 4th fashion course. Those are all courses that we're deleting because we no longer teach them. The math 205 was similar to the one Mr. Zumwalt questioned me on last time, is that this was a course that had an extra hour, and students found out they didn't need to take the extra hour, so they don't sign up for it. So we're deleting it because we haven't been able to fill that course. The next music courses are deleted because we're adding different sections of them for the repeatability. The same with the child development Then we get certificates. We're now entering all of our certificates into CurricuNet. So these are previously approved certificates, but they're now being entered into our technology system. So that's the child development. The same with the next child development. 2-year review for the next child development. See, child development's working on their stuff. And a modification, 2-year review for the next child development. And on the last page is a name change for the fire technology and a reduction in the number of units for a graphic design certificate of achievement. That was quick.
Lori, I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
One, you talked about the nursing program, the board recommendation.
The board of registered nursing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I didn't remember.
I was trying not to say not to say board of BRN. I was staying away from acronyms. Instead, I said the board, so I made it even worse.
And then my other question would be, For some of the public comments tonight were about the music program, what was that all about?
Oh, so okay, what
Wait,
happened?
I'm going to only say, I was thinking of this as we were earlier, I should have had Stan comment. Can we do that at the end so it gets on the record?
That has nothing to do with what we're doing
No.
here?
Maybe a little bit, but not really. I think I know why they were here, but at the end, can you comment so we get it
Yes.
on the record?
Yes.
That way we don't confuse it with the rest of the items. Is that okay?
Sure.
But if you have something to say on music now in terms of the classes, let's do that.
No, just
And then I wanna
that
address
the
the
music
comments.
is one of the areas being focused on with repeatability. So we're deleting the music courses that were repeatable and creating new courses in music that are non-repeatable. Good?
Yes.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're dropping the ABC and creating a new course.
Well, in most cases, we're dropping the ABC and just having one course. So a course before, you could take 4 times. Now it's the same course, but you can only take it once. So in most cases, that's what we're doing. And in PE, it's a little bit different because we have, for example, tennis, you could take it 4 times. So we had 3 levels of tennis, and you take each of them 4 times. So you could take tennis 12 times. Now we'll have 2 levels of tennis or 3 levels of tennis. So you can only take it 3 times.
Yeah, each level one time.
Each level 1 time. So before you take tennis 12 times, now you take it 3. Daniel had a question?
So, let's say for an art class, my art classes have A through D for the
Right.
semester. So we would break those up to Wilthorn 1, Wilthorn 2, Wilthorn 3, Wilthorn 4?
No. It depends on the area, but what they have now is they've created what's called a family of courses. So in art, they've created these different families of courses. So within each family, you can take 4 different classes. So you can't take wheel throwing more than once, but in the ceramics or that's ceramics, right, area, they'll have a ceramics family. And so there'll be 4 different ceramics courses that you can take, but you can only take them once. And you can take 4 different classes in that family of art. So there'll be another art family that's drawing and another one that's painting. Okay?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. I lost track, sorry.
I didn't catch
Did we
that.
get it? No.
We haven't, no.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I lost track. I didn't make the minutes. Okay, so a motion to approve curriculum, sorry.
So moved. Earl, I'll second.
Moved by Earl, seconded by Greg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes.
Do you want me at this point to touch base on the music
Why
instructor?
don't
Do you
we? Now
want
we
to
can
do
get
it?
on. You can do it now. Let's do it now.
What I think what President Cardozo was referring to is when we heard public comment tonight on the music program, what we understand from the local Tulare County Music Educators Association is they're aware now that we have the retirement of a full-time music instructor from our program. And because of the cycle, and I'm looking, Jennifer just.
I came back, I was going to
The
leave by
cycle of
state.
timing and how we approve instructors, right, Jennifer, prevents us from automatically filling that position with a full-time music instructor, but we intend to fill it with a full-time music instructor. They're just wanting to go on record now that the replacement of that and sustaining that full-time instructor in the music program is a high priority for our area and for our region.
We actually have an instructor, Jeff Bilden, who retired December 30th, and we have another instructor, Tim Lynch, who has put in his retirement for June. So what happens is those aren't considered until next year. There's a process that we go through where the division chairs will rank all of the faculty that we'll be hiring. Those weren't considered this year because we didn't know about them yet, and also because Fine Arts wasn't eligible to submit any faculty positions this year due to program review. So they did not pass their program review this year. So next year in the fall, so I'm talking fall 13, we will rank again depending on if we have any positions available, and we will rank, those will be included in the rankings with any other faculty positions that have become open.
And have they passed the first, I'm sorry.
They'll have their next program review will be due in October. So if they pass their program
So if they
review,
don't pass it, then
they cannot submit. But I do want to go on the record that the reason Fine Arts was very, they did not pass their program review almost on purpose because of the repeatability issue that we've been talking about. They had over 170 courses that they had to deal with that were repeatable. So they made a conscious decision not to go ahead with program review, and they did it, but they knew it wasn't going to be perfect, and they weren't focused on getting their classes taken care of this year, and that was their purpose. The issue that I believe that the gentlemen were referring to is that once Mr. Gilden retired, there was a couple of emails that went out, and Jeff Seward, who is our faculty member who remaining, there was an email that went out from, I'm not sure exactly who the person was, but she sent it to all the music educators in the area saying that COS was canceling its bands and its music program. It was an erroneous email, and Jeff Seward responded to that saying this is not true. This is not going to happen. We aren't canceling our bands. We're not canceling the choir, and our music program is continuing. But there was an erroneous email that went out, and I believe that is why the gentlemen were here tonight.
They actually had some corrected information before they got here tonight, but they still felt like it was important to come, knowing that there was this delay in this process for replacing those full-time instructors. They wanted to voice their support before the board.
Otherwise, next year, those two positions are going to be vacant. Right?
Correct. And
So we're not going to offer.
we have replaced, all of the bands have been there. We have not canceled any of the bands or any of the choirs or any of the classes. We've been able to fill them all with our current adjunct faculty.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
our current adjunct faculty.
I was concerned about them having a year that the program, that it would not be offered, because that's really a good way to kill a program.
Yeah, no, they're filled now with adjunct instructors.
Okay.
And they worked really hard to get coverage for everything. And the other issue is, I think on top of that, with the repeatability issues, because we're having to cancel so many courses and they're not repeatable anymore, that the music department has just really been affected by all of that. So I can understand why there might be some concern in the community about that, but I guarantee they have our support, and we'll be working with them. And they've done a great job filling all of the bands, all of the classes that they need to this semester and for next year.
Okay, so you haven't cut really in any core program classes for next fall due to these retirements?
No.
That'd be the main.
So these two gentlemen spoke really didn't have a concern.
They wanted.
They had a concern, but they really didn't need to be concerned.
Yeah, they didn't, but they also know that these are difficult financial times. Colleges are faced with tough decisions. They wanted to be here to voice their support.
I had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah, and I mean,
And I apologize, because I did, as I received an email, and then I failed to address that in that format, because I knew why they were here, so but you did, so I apologize as your president for not making Stan comment at that point while they were still here. And I think that they didn't wait for a response, because I think they knew why they were here, and that's why they left, so.
You said something that kind of bothers me a little bit, and I understand why. You say if they do not pass their program review next year, then they're not going to be considered as replacement. So that's the carrot you hang out there for, get your program review done. Now, the question I have is, if you have adjunct people, what kind of responsibility does that adjunct person feel toward doing a program review?
So in the Fine Arts Department, we had 16 full-time faculty. We still have 14 full-time faculty who are working on program review. They work together on it. Our adjunct faculty are very active in the department, and they're very involved in the program review process. But program review is separate from any type of sanctions. The sanctions are written in administrative procedure, which actually we're going to be reviewing this year as well. So it's two separate issues. You do your program review, but the administrative procedure is what determines if you're going to get funding or you're going to get positions, that kind of thing. That is a separate thing from program review. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. We'll move on to item number 22.
Okay, we have before you tonight the four of most recent 2013 College of the Sequoias board priorities as were prepared by you at the recent retreat. And then for your reference, we have the college's vision statement, again before you tonight, and the historical reference to previous board priorities that are still ongoing and remaining. So you can see all in one place on pages 1 through 3 behind your opening memo, the college's board-adopted mission statement remaining intact, and then the board priorities from 2007 through 2010, those that have been updated and remain ongoing. And then in 2011 and 2012, those that were updated and remain ongoing. And then again, those 4 new priorities you've established for this year before you tonight for your review and approval.
This one's important, so I made sure I asked Ken before he left if he had read these and had been, he didn't have any concerns or changes that he saw that he needed to make. So, do I have a motion to approve item 22? A second? Been moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving our COS board priorities for the year, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, on to item 23, and thanks Dan for putting our chicken scratch.
Yeah.
Make it sound a lot better.
The next item also stems out of the recent retreat. We agreed to take a little bit of extra time over the next couple of months and establish some information study sessions to be held by the board on topics that we knew were going to require a little bit of time to delve into details and to review information. So knowing that we had tentatively made the commitment to 4 special study sessions, one of them actually just preceding a regular Monday meeting on May 13th, 3 separate dates that would be special study sessions for specific topics are before you tonight. So Monday, February 25th would be an informational board study session. These are public meetings open to all on Measure J, construction costs and the bond anticipation notes. The second one is Monday, March 4th, which would be a review of the status of the COS Child Development Program, and then the facility planning for that program in 2013. And then on Monday, April 1st would be an annual, kind of the first annual COS program review results report to the board. And you just heard Jennifer talk a little bit about the process of program review. This is bringing forward to you a review of all the programs that went through, or a summary of all the programs that went through program review this year, and an opportunity to hear a quick summary of those reports from the administrators and staff involved. And then finally, on May 13th, which is our regularly scheduled meeting, we would hold what's called an early bird session, an opportunity to start that meeting a little bit early and look at the 2013-14 proposed budget, which we believe will be updated at that point based on the governor's May revise. So since we made the commitment to these, it's good public practice to put them out there and have the board adopt them so everybody knows when they are and that they're open meetings.
I move we approve the board study session dates.
Second. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Item 24, COS Foundation bylaws.
If you don't mind, I'm going to step in for Steve Renton. He was here a little while ago, but went home still working a little bit on the recovery from his surgery. As he mentioned, we did have a really great meeting just last week of the College of the Sequoias Foundation group. All of the respective members were there, about 33 in total, and this is their revised bylaws for the overall foundation's operation. They reviewed them page by page together, spent the last 6 months working on these under outgoing President Gary Artis's leadership, and after discussion and clarification at the foundation level, these were approved by the College of the Sequoias Foundation. Because they're an affiliate with College of the Sequoias, they come to you as a board for information, and your ratification then codifies them so that we can operate side by side with them. They can operate by their bylaws, and your ratification of the bylaws affirms their connection to the college.
Greg, you sit on this, right?
Yeah, I would say probably the big difference is instead of having auxiliaries, they're going to do chapters, and they're going to try to keep it, as one, as opposed to ending up being 3 different factions.
They devised a little structure where they have 3 chapters, but those 3 chapters each have representation on a common foundation committee. And so there will be representatives from all three chapters on the executive board of the foundation, and the executive board will meet more regularly with the authority to carry out overall foundation business, and then the three chapters will be able to meet and carry out individual chapter business.
So how often does the whole board meet now?
I think it's 6 meetings a year, about every other month.
Oh, the whole board then, from all three?
Oh, no, the executive board.
We'll meet, they meet twice, and then, yeah, that's about it. Twice,
Yeah.
I mean, 6 times, and then this big committee may only meet once or twice a year.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Motion to approve?
I move we approve.
Second. We moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. 25.
Good evening. I have one administrative procedure and board policy for your review this evening. It's speech, time, place, and manner, 3900. This particular administrative procedure deals or regulates time, place, and manner to exercise free expression in limited public forums. And the biggest difference, I would say, is in this first paragraph. It's not just limited to students, but it now includes employees of the district and members of our community as well. That second paragraph identifies the designated areas. Both Dr. Dudo from Tulare and Dr. Hollabaugh from the Hanford Center have reviewed this and have designated their areas where speech would take place. The top of page 2, it talks about the hours that are available for this between 8 and 5 p.m. I would say on page 3, what we added is number 7. We took into consideration the sound because we didn't want any interference or distraction with instruction in any of the areas. So we've added number 7, no amplified sound devices shall be used for any event other than approved ASB functions. And then on page 4, under unacceptable items include, we talk about hate literature as well as gender and sexual orientation. And we've quoted the statute there at the bottom. I think the board policy 3900 reflects those changes. Are there any questions?
Could the student,
The exec board,
do they review it?
they review any that pertain to students, they do.
To add to that, board member Zumwalt, it did go, these are now going through our participatory governance model in accordance with our new policy, or our updated policy on BPAP. So it's been through senior management, it's been through the college council, the academic senate, and if appropriate, in this case, the executive board of the association.
More important too, right?
And actually, again, we take into consideration those that it's going to affect most. Both, again, Kristen and Larry had an opportunity to review this, as well as Chief Masterson.
So this is, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to add, the other thing that we're doing is we're bringing both at the same time, the administrative procedure and the board policy, so that we're not delaying them. We're bringing them both to you together, so that you can see them.
I wasn't trying to weigh in on what they're going to say. I just wanted to make sure that all of those constituents that apply into this. Sounds like they have.
This is a second reading by the board. With your approval tonight, this will be.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt board policy number 3900?
What'd you put the vote?
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. You just can't vote.
Yeah, that's right.
Item number 26, authorization to enter into contract with the California Department of Education.
Hello again. Beginning of every academic year, we enter into a contract with the California Department of Education in order to provide childcare for state preschool children. Every so often, there are amendments to the contract that need to come before the board. And I should point out that it was in the August board meeting was when the board approved resolution number 2012-21, formally authorizing us to offer childcare for state preschool children. But here we are now in February, and there have been some amendments that actually play into our favor with the California Department of Education. And I'm here before you tonight to formally ask you that you approve the district entering into this amended contract with the Department of Education, and also to authorize, as we usually do, the signatures of myself, Mr. Carasosa, and Diane Pilgrim, who's the Early Childhood Education Director, to sign off on these contracts.
Any increased cost to us?
No.
It looks like the parameters have just changed, correct? You're amending parameters, right?
Yes.
90 days, yes. Okay. I think this is a roll call vote. Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Janet, can you poll forward?
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Zumwalt?
Aye.
Trustee Mann?
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza?
Aye. The resolution passes 4-0.
Eric, you're gonna get off easy.
Eric, you're up, I know. I think now I know why they put you.
Did you say slow it down?
Oh, boy.
We have a lengthy set of change orders tonight. Be easy on him, it's his birthday. It's past. We are getting to the end of the change orders for the projects, so we're in the final processing phase. This first one is for the Tulare Phase 1. There's one in here for local, the rest are the state. The first one is acoustical ceilings out of the local contract because that was affecting in the bookstore. We have our share, as all the other change orders have been, of errors, omissions, and enhancements. The errors have been back charged to the appropriate party. One thing I think worth noting on the about 2 paragraphs above the recommended action for the structural steel contract, this is a unilateral change order we're asking the board to approve. As you've heard, especially on Phase 3, but we're also having issues with this vendor on Phase 1. They refused to sign this as it was deductive, and based on meetings with legal counsel, we're recommending that we do this as a unilateral change order. As of the writing of this board item, we still had $47,000 in the local contingency fund, $253,000 and change in the state-funded project contingency fund. With that, it's recommended that the board approve the change orders for the acoustical ceilings, electrical, janitorial, landscaping, masonry, and structural steel portions of the Tulare Center Phase 1 project.
Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or, I'm sorry, so reluctant.
It's close. Okay, the last one for the Tulare Phase 3 project. This is the farm animal portion. Same items, different vendors. What we have here is the agricultural equipment, concrete, demolition and earthwork, fencing, finished carpentry, painting, plumbing, structural steel, and tile portions of the project. With all of the contractors, with the exception of structural steel, same thing. We have errors, omissions, and enhancements. The errors are back charged to the appropriate party. Again, I'd like to draw your attention to the structural steel. We've discussed this before in closed session. Based on a lot of legal counsel work, we're recommending that you're sweeping the remainder of their contract fee for a total negative change order of $705,000. This, we have a lot of legal issues related to this contractor and or their subcontractors, either suing them, suing subcontractors, and they're naming everyone in the lawsuit. So there is one I'd like to tell you about that's related to this. The subcontractor is the crane contractor. The crane contractor is now suing the subcontractor, which is Iron Industries, which was the steel portion, and COS is named in that lawsuit. The whole contract and lawsuit is $17,000. But we're going to spend more than that in legal fees. Not us, because it's not directly affecting us, but we're named in it. I hand all this off to legal counsel. They guide us through the process, the most cost-effective direction. There are many stop notices with this. Again, they all gone to legal counsel, and We put them on notice several meetings ago that most of these were for liquidated damages. Outside of the unilateral change orders themselves, the actual items, the remaining amount was for liquidated damages, for delaying the project. So some of these fees are being paid to other vendors. You've seen a couple small change orders within the remaining amount that would pay someone for having to stay later, paying for storage containers, or paying for their cranes to go along because of the effects of this vendor. So I'm recommending, at the direction and recommendation of legal counsel, that we enact this unilateral change order for $705,000. So with that, as of the writing of this, there is still $401,000 in the contingency fund for this project. It is recommended that the board approve the change orders for the ag equipment, concrete, demolition, earthwork, fencing, finished carpentry, painting, plumbing, structural steel, and tile portions of the Tulare Center Phase 3 Farm Animal Complex project.
Lori, can I ask a question?
Yeah, I have a question too.
Does our construction manager, does he have any responsibility for any of this?
They're assisting us with all the paperwork, so they are actually on our side. They're one of our biggest allies because everything was processed through them. We're looking at everybody as far as the cost, but most of this I was involved along the way, Greg, and this steel contractor just would not respond when we were requesting schedule updates all along. Every time someone deviates from their schedule, we're on them with letters and documentation trying to find out what's going on because there are other vendors affected by that. So all along the way, we have been pushing and prodding and getting information from subcontractors, what's happening, and they just fail to respond. Like most situations, they had change over of staff several times. They'll play the game. We didn't know that guy no longer works here, and this guy didn't get the memo. We just basically pushed them into a corner. What we did different here is we took the action to sweep the money. They have stopped communicating with us.
So of the $705,000, how much of that could we recover?
A significant amount. I hesitate to get too specific in a public meeting because there is pending litigation. We've had discussions with the president and the vice president in closed session. We have a very good strategy, and I'd like to keep it that we're keeping the district's interest at heart.
Eric, can you just explain to me how it works? So the $700,000 is costs that you have withheld from this contractor in order to pay the vendors that have been affected, or just how does it work? What happens if the 700 has actually been spent or not?
It has been, we are actually, it was at the time that we said the last shoe has dropped and legal counsel came in and said, don't pay them anymore. There was roughly $700,000 left that we had not paid them. As we calculated their liquidated damages, they're up somewhere around 1.1 million. There's several things in the contract that trigger liquidated damages. Not only their ending date, but milestones along the way.
Right, so this is for work not performed and it affecting other people.
The work was, the work was all performed. That was our number one thing, was get the job done. So there was no work that was not performed. This is accountability for not fulfilling their obligation under the contract. We have received several stop notices, and legal counsel has written them and said that, sorry, there's no money left. We need our share first. So we're taking this as a start, and we're taking the offense here to withdraw the money so the contract is done, so we know they're going to countersue us or sue us.
Yeah, if we hold that money in the end, they have to work with us.
Yes.
Otherwise, they have to collect it from us.
I just wasn't sure, we talked about it in closed session, I just didn't know what this changed and what we've already talked about, so now I'm clear, thank you.
Tell the board what a stop notice is.
I'm sorry?
Tell the board what a stop notice is.
Stop notice. A stop notice can come from anybody with an interest in that contract to withhold payment. So let's say someone filed a stop notice and said, I'm the crane guy, they haven't paid me $100,000, I want to put a stop notice for $100,000. We legally have to withhold 125% of that until they figure it out. In this situation, when those stop notices came in, our legal counsel said, sorry, it's too late. We've already taken the money. And so now you have to go to their surety and or sue them. So that's where it gets a little more convoluted, is that our legal counsel wanted to make sure that COS was taken care of first.
Right.
That's not to say that some of this may help some of those others, but our number one interest is COS. And there are other remedies.
If the total liquidated damages by contract are over $1 million, and we're holding 700,000 or so, there's somebody who's not going to get something. So our legal counsel's recommendation to us was hold that money to make sure you get as much as you're appropriately entitled to, and we'll figure out how to work with those obligations that they're fighting out amongst themselves.
Within the limits of not weakening COS's position by making public statements, in other words, if you don't answer this question, if that's a consequence. What happened to these guys? What did
They, I think, several different things. You know, the typical, they said that one of their subs, who's the main stop notices, Iron Industries is their name, they're the main steel guys. They said that Iron Industries, it was their fault. They stopped sending people to the job site. They said that the union halls were impacted, they couldn't get the employees. That was one excuse we heard. They had, in our opinion, terrible mid-level management who just wouldn't talk to the people in the field. And so we were getting two different stories. Our memos would go unnoticed. So it seemed like it was from the top down. It was organizational, it was managerial.
The job was too complicated for them, apparently.
You know, they're a major contractor. They did all of phase one, which is a bigger project, and it wasn't only until the end when phase three started falling apart. There were only minor issues on phase one. There's not many big structural steel vendors in the valley. They're one of the big ones.
How'd you finish on time?
We finished on time.
I'd say how.
Very careful.
Very careful. We always have a little bit of cushion. I'm known as Plan B. One of the things that we looked at was when do classes have to start. And if you notice, we pushed it right to the edge on phase three. There were still some punch list items going on now. I had left a little cushion in there with school. But that was one of the more challenging things talking to Brent and Stan was how do we play this strategy? Because we had the ability early on to pull their contract and invoke their bonding company. But we knew that would slow down the process. So our number one was get the job done. And so there was a lot of strategy sessions and obviously some risk as well. But we made it. We made it through the job done part. Now we have to make it through the administrative portion and let the courts sort it out.
Lori, you
I need a motion.
there's no other questions. I move that we, what do I move? Change order, that we grant Eric's request regarding change orders of local contracts.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Any further comments? Sam, anybody? Meeting adjourned.